So the time has come, dear colleagues, dear students. My presentation is on the schedule. First, I would like to say welcome and hello everybody, as we do every morning, even if you are doing it online. I really appreciate all the job and work what Peter, Gilina staff, and mainly all the partnership did to realize even this virtual workshop. It is very important not only for the implementation of the project, it's important for us, those who are for a long time in this partnership, and we really consider this project. It doesn't matter how it is called, DinoSoc, SysContact, SmartSoc, or any other. It's much more than only a project. It's a partnership, a long-standing. It's a long-standing partnership. So I have an hour and 22 slides, dear students, to speak and to think about our identity. What is it? Who are we? How we live? How we deal with it? And how we behave and how we interact with each other. So as Peter mentioned in the morning, the title of the lecture is pretty long. Is the question of identity and new forms of borders in European social space, management of socio-economic transformations. Yet it is pretty long, but I was really focusing on the demand coming from the Gilina leadership, which said that our lectures, presentations, topic should be definitely and 100% in accordance at least with the European Horizon strategy. So I was trying to focus on it, firstly. Secondly, I was also focusing on another important issue, which is the field from which I'm coming from, is the field of social and behavior sciences. Mainly it's international relations and political science. So definitely it's far away of what the target group you students are representing and from where you students are coming from. But still, if the partnership decided, and it also says, EU says that soft skills are needed, then I'm glad that my presentation also has some space in the curricula or in the plan of the workshop. I was thinking to build up a certain lecture, which is not too long and is not too annoying. And I was focusing somehow on the last year's feedback what I received from you, some of you. Mainly there are students who joined also last year. And basically, I tried to pick not only a subject, but to insert some examples which are more close to you, not because they are technical, it's also because they are very common and they are very contemporary. So it's happening every day in our day-to-day life. Okay, this was the introduction. Actually, the last part of the introduction is the lecture outline, what we will speak about today in this hour. As I said, we have 1 hour and 22 slides to think about who we are, what is our identity, and how we understand and interact with the other. So mainly after I will tell you some words about the reason of the lecture, actually what almost already did. We will speak about the identity because the theoretical part is very, very necessary, but don't be afraid, dear students. I will skip the very deep philosophical theory. I will try to present identity as a concept in a very simple and short way. After that, we will speak a little bit about the European social space and the European social model, social space and social model. You will see that it is very interesting. The concept of it is very interesting, and basically, I believe that it's important to deal with it or just to think about it, since all of us and almost 500 million still without the UK citizens, but still over 450 million. We are still living and sharing this common European social space and the social model. So it's is the property of all of us, and we need to take care of it. And at the end, we will speak about the socio-economic transformations. Here, there are several socio-economic transformations, but you will see that I picked only one, which is very, very emerging and very, very important in contemporary European social space and social model, which is somehow related to our digital identity. So, why we need this lecture, or why you should listen to me, and why you should think a little bit about the things what I'm telling you. First of all, dear students, there is a theme that appears frequently, let's say frequently in public debate nowadays or in recent years, concern the future and the destiny of a united Europe, from cultural approach of the European integration, the relationship between national and European level, how it's working in the member states and between the member states, the relationship between the national cultures and the so-called European space, what we will speak about, and the possibility of emergence of a European cultural identity with, let's even call it with a supranational character, because mainly Europe and European Union plays, or it has, a supranational character. So even the European cultural identity should have this supranational character. Therefore, let's say that the present lecture starts from the point, or from the assertion according to which Europe is faced with several socio-economic transformations, and the issue of new borders, given that European public space became a geopolitical environment, that is definitely, we can say that definitely is experiencing a new institutional arrangement between nation states and the so-called new paradigm of coexistence of the cultural differences. Yes. So mainly here, what you need to focus on is the topic or the subject of the European public space, which nowadays is not anymore just a territory. It became a geopolitical environment, and this geopolitical environment, it plays an active role in this global geopolitical environment. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, of course.
Because I had a hold bad network quality, and stop. Can you still see the screen?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay, good. So I will continue. So basically, you need to think about this geopolitical environment, European public space as a geopolitical environment, part of the global geopolitical environment, which is not only getting more and more active, it's also experiencing new institutional arrangements between nation states and the new paradigm of coexistence of cultural differences. Good. Okay, why is not switching? Now it's switching, yes. Okay. In this new environment, what I said, this new geopolitical environment, we have the main, of course, the main actors are we, the individuals, but we individuals, we are gathered somehow together in societies. And these societies, or our societies, nowadays are facing, let's say, one of the biggest challenges in our history, which is connected somehow to the so-called ecological crisis. Yes, that put us in danger, all of us. The very human existence. Certainly, we reach the point when the very human existence is put. It's in danger because of this ecological crisis. Of course, randomly, I just choose the picture. It's about Paris. We have no partners from Paris or any other university from Paris or around, but we have French partners. But this picture can be from any other partner, unfortunately, between the partner states, because these ecological issues and ecological problems are existing problems in all European member states, in all partner countries of this project, of this consortium, and unfortunately globally it's an existing issue. So this ecological crisis is a big issue, but is not the only one. So it's not the only issue. On the right side of the slide, you can already see what I'm talking about, the so-called inequality, yes, the social inequality, which is another emerging issue and a very dangerous one in our, let's say, European society. This inequality is rising, dear students, and it's rising, unfortunately, very, very fast. And the so-called divide between those who are enjoying or who enjoy the privileges of the globalized capitalism in which we are living in, and those who are left behind is increasing. So this gap between not the rich, but let's call them the rich and the poor is getting even bigger, every day bigger, in a very strange way, because you will see that during this, let's say, raising inequality, we have a tremendous digital or scientific development. But back to our society a bit. As I said, our societies lose cohesion through these processes and become more polarized and fragmented, unfortunately. This phenomenon happens also in member states, and it happens also in the partner countries of this consortium. We have no exemption to this, so there is no any European state which can be an exception of this. Despite of this tremendous economic growth of the last decade, what we experienced, as I said, the phenomenon of inequality and the share of people at risk of poverty and social exclusion are among the highest in the EU. So in 2020, 2021, without or with pandemic, without or with COVID, we are still on a, on the climbing side in the context of economic development, welfare, and so on. But on the other hand, we are going to the bottom regarding social exclusion, poverty in the EU. It is very strange. We should think that if we are developing from all point of view, we should develop also from social and living conditions point of view. Unfortunately, is not the point, or is not the reality. Moreover, the consequence of the climate crisis, floods, droughts, I don't know, rising prices for food, are again disproportionately hitting the poor. I mean, they are not hitting this so-called higher class of the society. They are hitting the poor. So as I have pointed out previously, these ecological and socio-economic crises are not two independent phenomena. So we don't need to think about the ecological crisis and the social crisis as two independent phenomena. These two have a common root and are both originating in the same economic model. Yes, so ecological crisis, social inequality, social crisis are both, let's say, originating or have common roots or are developing in the same economic model. Okay, what is this model? Because this model, dear students, has brought us, for example, productivity gains and economic growth, but it also produces, how to say, negative externalities or negative side effects or side effects. Yes, side effect is also always negative, such as pollution, public health issues health issue, public health issues, or waste management, and so on, several other things. Last year, if I remember well, last year we had some of the case studies, entrepreneurial case studies, and even this year which were focusing on this type of issues. Therefore, dear students, both the social and the ecological crisis must be, let's say, addressed or treated or managed simultaneously by adjusting the way our system works. Very, very important to manage these two issues, ecological crisis, social inequality or social crisis, simultaneously by adjusting the way our system works. Okay. My keyboard is not working anymore. So as I said, we jump to another part, to the third part of, or the second part, sorry, of the lecture, which is the part of identity. Yes, to explain somehow identity. What is identity? How we deal with it, and how we understand it. Of course, you can understand it as a puzzle, as you can see on the picture on the slide. You can understand it as a puzzle. We need to not only to make the puzzle to find out what is the identity, it's also a task of ours to build up our own identity. And I believe that we can build up our own identity as we are making a puzzle, pieces to pieces, step by step. So, dear students, identity. It can mean many different things to different people, and definitely in different contexts. But everything from psychical body and characteristics such as eye color, face, demographic information, such as age or race, let's say to government issued documents like ID, is contributing to our identity. It's contributing to our identity. Yes. Basically, identity can be somehow shorthand for your sense of self or an allies you're known by in specific communities. But also it can be a role, let's say a role or a job, login details, or even your online, let's say online reputation. It can create a certain identity for us individuals. Anyway, in most cases, the thing that often counts as your identity is something unique. Yes, is something special, is something unique. The thing that that distinguishes an individual from a group. Yes, and not only distinguishes an individual from a group, it also can distinguish an individual from an individual. Yes, because we have our, let's say, it customized or personal or unique identity too. So on the slide, I put here some, I present here some official theoretical definitions of identity. 5, you will see 5 of these. And I also noted the theoreticians, sociologists, or philosophers who were building up this definition. You can find this also in the bibliographic recommendations, and you can read about this if you are in a detailed way if you are interested in the subject. So what can be the first definition? Identity is people's concept of who they are, of what sort of people they are, and how they relate to others. This can be the first one. Yes. The second, identity is used to describe the way individuals and groups define themselves and are defined by others on the basis of race, ethnicity, religion, language, and culture. Yes, this is a little bit more complex. The third one, identity refers to the ways in which individuals are and collectivities are distinguished in their social relations with other individuals and collectivities. This is much more focusing on our behavior and our existence in the society. The fourth one, it's somehow more specific because already includes the national identity, which describes the condition in which a mass of people have made the same identification with national symbols, have internalized their symbols of the nation, etc. Yes. Here, I'm sure that all of you know your national symbols, or what are the national symbols, starting from a flag or a logo or a national item, or even customs, traditions of your nation, of your country, from the culinary to the, I don't know, to the industry. There are certain things which can be considered as part of our national identity. And the fifth definition, of course, there are even more than 5, but I choose these 5 because I believe that these are very relevant. The fifth one is focusing on identities which are relatively stable, role-specific understandings and expectations about self. Yes. Here, I would like to give you the example of a new emerging identity, which is the so-called corporatist identity. Yes. The corporatist identity, which is developing in certain companies, very, very big multinational companies, corporations, where the employers are considered as part of the corporation, and the corporation, through several strategies, is also working to develop this certain, how to say, corporatist identity. Yes. So you can live in Romania or in Germany, you can live in Finland or in, I don't know, in Spain, and you can be citizen of these countries, but through your work and do your daily task in the corporation, just spending there 10 hours per day and receiving all the benefits what mainly you want, you can create a certain corporatist identity. I'm sure that you understand. Good. Finally, because we have no more identities, I tried to build one up, which is, let's say, is not so theoretical, but in my opinion, if somebody will ask you what is identity, not only after this lecture, generally, you can give a simple answer to this question, what is identity? That identity it is how one answers the question, who are you? Or my identity, dear student, is how I define who I am. There is any question here? Good. If there are no questions, then we will switch a little bit to a next topic, which is also related somehow to the identity. It's related to identity in a specific way. So as you see, the European cultural model has a value-based framework based on legality, freedom, equality, fraternity, solidarity. I'm not afraid to say even Christian sentiment and tradition of the sacred, which adds to the historical evolution of the 3 major modern political revolutions which existed or it happened in Europe. Europe, as you can see, it's a kind of a conglomerate, dear students. It's a conglomerate of national identities, yes, whose ethnic, linguistic, mental, confessional, religious, etc., it doesn't matter which, it's getting together. And all this diversity has determined a variety of cultures, yes, a variety of cultures, very, very important what we have here in Europe. But still, over this, we cannot never forget the values on which this union or conglomerate was built on. This problematic nature of the European project, yes, of the European Union, it's also encapsulated in the motto of the European Union. And please always focus on this: traveling, seeing, meeting new people, and experiencing new things. Unity in diversity. Yes, this is also the official motto of the EU, but it should be also somehow our day-to-day motto, how we live and we interact with the other, with the new or the unknown. So unity in diversity. The concept of this European identity, dear students, is not new at all. They are trying to build it from the start of, actually not even before the First World War, even before the 20th century. We have people like Victor Hugo or like political leaders like Churchill after the Second World War, who were dreaming about a certain united Europe from some point of view. So this concept of European identity, which is necessary, a very necessary ingredient to build up this united something, expresses rather the idea of unity than the real identity. Yes. So mainly those who are afraid that they will lose some of their national or local or I don't know what type of identity, religious, mental, linguistic, ethnic, so on, because they will, how to say, open for a certain European identity. This is not true, my friends. You need to remember always that this concept, European identity, expresses rather the idea of unity than real identity. And here I want to, also from theoretical point of view, I want to let you know some very important issues and differences. And you can ask me why this is so important. Firstly, because most of you are living in countries where you have majority and minority from identity and ethnical point of view. Second, traditionally, so from historically, it was always an existing situation. Secondly, it's because Europe is getting bigger, more colorful, more diverse because of the external infusion of different identities and ethnical groups. Yes, but we need to handle somehow, and we cannot handle it if we don't understand, first of all, their identity. Second of all, if you are not able to manage this type of socio-economic transformations, and we are not able to manage the relation between majority and minority. Sorry, I had another bad network thing. It stopped. The team stopped for a second. I hope that you can still hear me. Can you?
Yes, it is okay.
Okay. So, national versus ethnic minorities or identity in the European Union. For a better understanding, dear students, the relationship between the majority and a minority in a society is described by the terminology what we must distinguish between demographic dimension and the sociological nature, let's call, or dimension of these types of relations. Shortly, what is all about? From demographic point of view, the majority-minority relationship describe a situation of, let's say, volume difference between two ethnical and or religiously differentiated segments, yes, who coexist in a territorial administrative framework, usually on the territory of a state. Here you need to understand that in brackets I mentioned it, that I put here ethnical and religious minorities or differentiations, but there are more and more member states who are creating the majority-minority group even from several other point of views, like gender or any type of other orientation, okay? But here I'm just shortly dealing with ethnical or confessional differentiations or segments. So this is the demographic point of view, the difference in a volume, yes, a volume difference. In a sociological sense, minority-majority relation describe the situation of asymmetry between groups in terms of power or authority, essentially a report of subordination of the minority communities by the dominant majority. All of you can think about minority groups which are existing in your home countries, or even in your home city, or even in your university or group, seminar group. If they are existing minorities or existing majorities, you can easily see if these minority groups are somehow subordinated, and if yes, why these are subordinated. And this relation, this subordinating relation, is it brings any benefit in your day-to-day work and results, or it brings only minus, problems. Okay, why we need to make these differentiations, as I said. Important to make the distinctions between the two perspectives, demographic and sociological, but why? One very simple reason is the following. The way how the management of power and authority relations is institutionalized do not necessarily overlap with demographic ratios. Or a more simple way to understand, power, dear students, does not always belong to the many. It belongs to the groups that control the resources of power and authority in a society, yes? Which may be a minority in a demographic sense. So nowadays in our social economic changes what we experiment, this is the biggest and most important change, that power does not always belong to the many. It belongs to the groups that control the resources of power and authority in a society, which may be a minority in demographic sense. A classic example from the past, from the very dark past of the humankind, actually a dark part of the past of the history, is the classic example of the former apartheid regime in South Africa. It's unofficially, there are several civic organizations who are complaining, or which are complaining, that this system still exists. This apartheid regime, just Google it and search for it if you don't know what it's all about. It was the best example to how a very, very small minority can control all the resources, all the power, all the authority, and all the majority. Another important issue is between national minorities versus ethnical minorities. The need to distinguish national minorities and ethnic minorities, it's very, very important. For example, in Romania, Hungarians or Germans are national minorities. Yes, I give the example of the country where I live in. And here we have in Romania, Hungarians and Germans who are considered as national minorities. While Gypsies, for example, are not considered national minorities, are considered ethnic minorities. But we can say this is the example of Hungary, or this is the example of Slovakia, is the same. The Hungarians in Slovakia are ethnic minorities, but national minorities, but the Gypsies are ethnic minorities, yes? It is commonly considered that nationality shows us the membership in a community outlined sufficiently politically, yes? The unity of territory, language, economic, social, cultural, and psychic life, and has the consciousness of origin, and its own destiny. Ethnicity on the other side, this was nationality, ethnicity on the other side shows the connection for a person with a distinct entity of individuals constituted as a historical community between people, and which is based on the unity of territory, language, culture, and traditions, etc., several other things. Important, very, very important to speak also about, not important, but also, legal things. The delimitation, dear students, between the two concepts does not get any significance in international law. There are no obvious interest in clarifying the distinctions between the two terms. So legally, there is no ethnic minority and national minority. Legally, we speak only about a minority or a majority. Okay, what makes the difference between national/ethnic minorities and nations? First, there is the territorial factor. It is an essential element in the process of constitution of a nation. On the other hand, although often national/ethnic minorities are concentrated in certain regions, they can be often found scattered or isolated. Yes, the political organization level, a second distinguishing element, is much lower in the case of the minorities, even if they also constitute a series of representative structures. The third distinguishing element is the group dynamics, which are distinct. In the case of nation, the aspiration towards an individual existence is essential for its definition and becoming as an entity. In the case of minorities, the main goal is to maintain the cultural, linguistic, and religious identity within the existing political organization or through its optimization. I need to speed it up because I just saw the clock. So, dear students, if national identity confers to the individual national legitimacy, citizenship is the condition of a decent existence within a state. On the other hand, nationality defines that the individual belongs to an ethnic group. So do not confuse, never ever, do not confuse it with the citizenship. I am a Hungarian nationality Romanian citizen. Do you understand? So don't make the confusion. But I can be also a Romanian nationality Spanish citizen. Yes, if we give examples, there are big, in Spain there is a big Romanian community, but they are representing a minority overall. Yes, so please do not make any confusion between citizenship and nationality. Even though legally, as I said, there is no any any determination of it. Citizenship refers to all members of the respective state, indifferent of the ethnic origin, and the state has the obligation to equally protect all and to secure their rights and freedoms implied by this status. Yes. Check this map. This is a map of Europe, continental Europe, not European Union, continental Europe, so from the Atlantic to the Ural Mountains, from west to east, where you can see with the colored points are representing the minorities, not the existing minorities. These are the minorities which somehow wants to be separate from the majority. Can you imagine? So these we have even more minorities in continental Europe, but these colored points are representing the minorities who want to separate from the majority because somehow they don't feel good or they need a better or a special status. Okay, you will find the presentation. You can check them out. And to see that why it's so important to speak about this level of tolerance, dear students, and the level of acceptance, I picked how to say research where shows the level of tolerated minorities in the most developed, not only the most developed countries from Europe, from the GDP and GDP per capita level, also, I mean economically, also these are the countries which are receiving the most of the migrants, even external migrants, I mean outside from the EU, and even domestic migrants from the internal migration, like from Romania, I moved to France or to Germany or so on. I'm sure you understand. And in this study, we have some minority groups. Yes, we speak here about minority groups. And here the minority group, as you can see, it's represented not only from ethnical or from confessional point of view. So we have the Romas, the Gypsies, the Muslims, the Black people, the LGBT community. It's written here gay people, but the LGBT community and the Jewish people. And you can check What is the tolerance level regarding these minorities in Britain, France, Germany, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland, so on, mainly economically the most developed countries from continental Europe? And you will get surprised of the numbers. Yes, we don't have time to enter in detail, but just check the numbers and you will see that how small is the level of to tolerate, to not to integrate, just to tolerate. Good. The European social space and social model. Here things are a little bit more complicated, but after me there is a break is coming. So with the permission of Peter and others, I will to explain it properly. I will need 5 more minutes to my presentation. So what is this European social space and social model? Over the past decades, dear students, Europe's, let's say, low rate of illiteracy or the quality of public services, the high access to education and to health, and the good improving living and welfare conditions and working conditions can all be attributed somehow to the European social space and the European social model. Yes, our parents, our grandparents were rebuilding this continent and creating this union. Our parents were contributing it a lot, but somehow we, or actually me, the third generation, or those who are like my age people and a little bit even older, we are now somehow we reached to benefit from all this space and model created by our ancestors. Yes. Welfare policies have guaranteed stability and social peace, and have shown that economic and social developments are, how to say, interrelated, so are very connected. The social dimension also contributed to forge European identity and pushed it towards the objective of the most competitive knowledge economy in the world. Of course, you can say this is not true because Europe or European Union is somewhere at the 4th or the 5th place. Yes, economically speaking, yes, but from the knowledge-based economy, we are in the really top 3. So many countries in the 90s engaged in long-term reforms of let's say, social protection and social policies under the pressure of demographic changes, such as, for example, the aging of European societies, under the pressure of economic changes and the context, for example, increased competition in globalized markets, structural unemployment and long-term sustainability issues. All these put pressure on the social policies and determine the changes. Perhaps, dear students, still knowing all this, surprisingly, there is no official definition of the European social model, and but still this European social model and space can also be characterized, even if cannot be defined very properly, but be characterized by its comprehensive nature, since its aim is to encompass all important social areas and to, let's say, and to cover the greatest number of people, something that has been achieved over decades. Yes, so community or European legislation has, let's say, progressively been extended to cover more and more labor issues, but also has extended its coverage to new categories of workers. So this is how the European social model and space can be characterized or presented, not defined, around 5 main pillars as described below. Yes, and these 5 main pillars, you can see this in this big circle picture, what is inserted to the slide: the national social space, the EU social citizenship space, the EU social policy in its ordinary denotation, and the European social constitution. Yes, the European social constitution. It would take like 15-20 minutes to explain all this in a very brief way. We will skip it, but at the end, if you will have questions, I will answer to it. So the European Social Union, the European social space, and the social model. And here in this space, we have the socio-economic transformations in the EU. In this social economic social space and European social model and European social space, here we have all these transformations what we speak about during this lecture. As I said, there are several transformations, but I picked this one, which is related to our self-sovereign identity and to our distributed identity. So, dear students, I would like to say that there are two buzzwords, yes, we can call these buzzwords, which are often heard in identity today, or when we speak about identity today. And these buzzwords are the self-sovereign identity and the distributed identity. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this concept or buzzwords, as I said, but I will try to explain briefly. So the reason for considering new models for identity is, among other things, to let's say, to avoid a single point of dependency and to put the user in a, let's say, in a control, in a control of his or her identity, and also to decide how much information to share and with whom. Yes, so these are very, very important things when we speak about this self-sovereign identity and distributed identity. It is somehow a compelling story. Yes, it is somehow a compelling story. Let's say, who wouldn't like more control over who has access to their data and everything what is connected to us? Unfortunately, while the story is easy to sell or to tell and to present, implementing a certain self-sovereign identity is a much harder problem. You can see on the picture illustrated, I mean, how a self-sovereign identity should work. Yes, the current model of identity and the self-sovereign identity. Yes, the main change is exactly on the center, on the focus. Yes, on the focus. So implementing it, it's a harder problem. It's very difficult, but still we can speak about the implications of this model of identity and where the responsibilities lie related to this. All this is connected, dear students, to our digital identity. Yes, and this digital identity nowadays gives a person access to their email, bank account, property, digital money, and even more, etc. Several things. But all this the hard part is. Can you hear me? Because I had another interruption. Hello?
Yes. Okay.
Okay. So, but all this related to this digital identity is the hard part. Is binding. Is the hard part is to binding or to connect the physical person to the digital identity. Somehow the analog to the digital. I used to joke that I'm a very analog guy in this digital world. Yes. So identity professionals spend a lot of time trying to figure out the secure ways of doing this, to connect the physical person to a digital identity. But which are the main obstacles? First of all, dear students, the main obstacles are no, we are still at this side. So the main obstacles are related in our human nature. Yes, we are humans, and our main problem or main deficit is that we are not reliable. Let's be honest. I am not reliable totally, and definitely even you in your life, you have certain moments when you can observe and you can easily realize that you are not reliable. So anyone who has ever known a human being, for for any length of time knows this, that human beings are not 100% reliable. And how is this affecting our digital identity? Simply, dear students, they forget passwords and credentials and they are not creating backups. Yes, all this new technology that relies on how to say fallible people to keep or reliable people to keep credentials safe comes with very big risk. Yes, very big risk. And if you don't believe me, dear students, I give you the example, the very big percent, exactly the 23% of all bitcoins that are now lost, thanks to lost passwords and hard drivers that now lie in landfill. Yes, so mainly 23% of nowadays very valuable bitcoins are lost. Yes, I mean, we cannot access it, you cannot use it. Why? Because the human being was not reliable, simply. It's unwise to create an infrastructure where ownership of possessions depends slowly on people's memory, in this case. Yes, please, dear students, if you still don't believe me, just please raise your hand honestly. Who of you never used, let's say, I forgot my passport function in your email box? Or raise your hand if you have never lost, for example, your key from the house or from your car. Or who is the person who really never needed help to access a locked space, a locked space by him before? I'm sure that everybody can raise its hand, and because to all of us, all these things happened in the past. So in these situations, we can call a locksmith or demand a new password. Yes, whether physical or digital, we can depend on somebody being there to assist if we get locked out. Yes, so unless we implement this type of recovery mechanisms, self-sovereign identity means that there is no one that can help, dear students. That's why it's self-sovereign. It depends only on me. Okay? So the self-sovereign identity, will mean always that no one can help. With self-sovereign identity, on the other hand, each user has a private key designed in such a way that a brute force attack is close to impossible. This is clearly a good thing, of course, and it prevents others taking over your digital identity. But on the other hand, putting the only possible key to access the digital identity in the hands and forgetful brains, in the hands or in the forgetful brain of the users, it can bring you to disaster. Yes, so there is no backup door in this self-sovereign identity, so there is nobody to call. So what we do is not just forgetfulness we need to worry about. It can happen other things, other terrible things like accidents, illness, which can affect their memory and can damage our recovery. And when we die, simply, several assets are to be, passed on to private key needed to access your digital identity is mainly lost forever. So you can see how many dangers we have connected to this digital identity, but we still need to consider the worst case scenario. So we still need to consider, to have this, and mainly our day-to-day life is going in this direction, in the creation of digital identity, and not only of the creation or existing of this digital identity, also that we are, we are believing on it, we are trusting it, so on. So clearly we need a solution, and this solution, according to several thinkers and scientists, or new thinkers, and even bloggers, they say that the solution is represented by the identity custodians. Identity custodians. What is this? An identity custodian is, from our digital identity, as you can see, this identity custodian it will be an entity, not a person, an entity we can trust first of all and call upon if we have a problem, yes, an issue connected to our digital identity. Somebody who is always able to give a key back when it's lost. Of course, it would be ideal that we should be able to choose which identity custodian to use and even switch it as often as we wanted. But still, we also need different custodians for holding identity data and holding a key in escrow, let's say, to ensure segregation of responsibilities and to reduce the exposure. So mainly, shortly, this was the biggest, actually not the biggest, one of the main changes what we are experiencing in this European social space and model. And this is one of the changes related to our identity, the creation of digital identity, and not only the creation, the management of this, and let's say how we deal with it. So finally, at the end, we reach the conclusion part, where I would like to connect it also with our project a little bit. Dear students or participants, but mainly you are all students. Through this project, through this SmartSoc project, we established several objectives. But one of these objectives, I can clearly say that we are trying to explore new ways of thinking and actions that are forward-looking in a way or in another. We are also trying to figure out best policy options for achieving a green and inclusive economy, very, very important, based on the crisis, ecological and social crisis. And of course, environmental policies, as I said, must go hand in hand with measures aiming to achieve more economic democracy, a fairer distribution of wealth and more social inclusion. Yes, and more social inclusion. So these green policies, or call it as you want, but green policies mainly is, I believe, is a general name, have to be green policies have to be socially just policies, otherwise they are doomed to fail, yes, by only scratching the surface of the problem and by losing the support of those who are affected the most by the consequences of the climate crisis and the social inequity. So dear students, please always remember that diversity and even multiculturalism is not just a reference to a person's race or religion. It includes more than that, traditions, thoughts, perspectives as well. It is very important to show and to communicate also by body language, by verbally, through your behavior, let's say your way of thinking, even your resume to future hiring managers, that you demonstrate a respect and appreciation for differing views and the sensitivity to those who may be different than you. And the end, really at the end, just to laugh a bit, I searched for. I remember back in Romania joined the EU in 2007, and after joining the EU, and even nowadays, we had several problems with the integration in the EU, especially a big group of Romanians who left the country and migrated to several richer Western European countries. They were refusing to integrate, and several campaigns started in Romania to teach us, as citizens, how to be the perfect European. And connected to one of these campaigns of the public authorities in Romania, a certain group of comedians and prepared a caricature, yes, a caricature which represents some of the, how to say, most known or from their welfare level countries in or nations in Europe. And here, if you check, of course, you need to consider it as a pamphlet, as a caricature, yes, as a caricature of the perfect European, how the perfect European should be. But I believe it's from this auto-criticism and auto-comic things, auto-caricatures, we can learn a lot. So just check the picture and you will see that there are several things which are not really working as they are supposed to be, but it depends only on us if we can fix it or not. Over this, we have bibliographic recommendation and official data given by the leaders of the partnership, Peter and the Žilina team. Okay, it was only 3 minutes over my time, so thank you very much for your attention. I'm still able to answer questions, so please.